if they give me life, I could be out in 15 years, but that life, I could be every 5 years. 18 to 20 doesn't look bad right now if I plead out. And my lawyer's like, I don't think I can get you back down to man. This DA was on it like, I'm not letting go of this, and that. That's when I told the judge, like, dude, I don't feel like this dude's representing me right. You know, Your Honor, he told me I'm young, 15 to life, I can do it. Anything better than that is I can get over.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Special guest with me today. To be honest, this is one of the people I thought of when I was creating this in my head, seeing everything that you do and how far you come. So without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Mark Mendoza. They call me Marky the Barber, Cambridge, Massachusetts. I grew up down the coast to Portuguese, hard-working parents, you know what I mean? But I got intrigued quick to the street. Moms and pops are hustlers, working their ass off, trying to provide for us, give us all the things they didn't have. There was nothing I didn't really have, you know what I mean?
Do you feel like having immigrant parents, that there was like a disconnect between them and the culture of maybe what's going on in Cambridge or America in general? Like, do they know about the streets and that dynamic?
So my pops was hip, you know what I mean? He came here at a young age, but even in Portugal, he was already a hip cat, you know what I mean? So he came in here, and that's where I learned I get all my hustles from, my grind, like the nonstop. He had his hands in everything, but all legit. So when it came to like growing up, I had a great upbringing, you know what I mean? All different walks of life coming out of my family, from cops to firefighters and all that. Unfortunately, I was the black sheep, you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's good to get the perspective, because it's not always like a hopeless situation, a fatherless house. You know, a lot of people get attracted to, we all end up in that same place, and I'm talking about prison somehow and some way or another. So talk to me a little bit about how you were as a student growing up. Was English like a easy thing for you?
That was my father's whole thing. First language was English. So even so, not learning Portuguese, and then me being from the coast, and if you know, East Cambridge was like the dominant Portuguese area. I wasn't really their type of Portuguese because I grew up in a whole different neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up closer to Central Square, where half them cats never went there because there was no Portuguese people there. We were like the Portuguese people of that neighborhood. Right. East Cambridge was a stronghold. That's where my father grew up. That was a great thing about growing up in Cambridge.
Yeah,
I really never knew anything but diversity till I went to DYS and was like, oh, hold on. Okay. It's a little different here. Then when you get to prison, it's a lot different. It's like, oh, hold on. Now you got to know exactly who's who. People judging you for me hanging with this one and that one. Growing up in Cambridge was like probably the greatest thing as a kid, because getting to see every walk of life. You had single parents raising kids, and the neighborhood raised each other. You know what I mean?
It's a great city, and I'm not gonna say that it was a hopeless city. There's plenty of opportunities, but there's also trouble if you're looking for it. You're gonna find it.
And back then, like, I grew up where there was, you know, they didn't have rent control. So Cambridge was a whole different Cambridge than it is now. At one time, we were calling it Crime Bridge because there was so much crime here. You know what I mean? Yep. As soon as they came in with rent control, if you didn't own, I was blessed that my father owned, because he went and bought a house in a neighborhood that nobody else would buy at that time. So we got lucky to still be able to have our roots in Cambridge. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you said you went to DYS, so obviously you got in trouble at a younger age. How were you as far as a student? Were you getting in trouble at school?
There was no school. You know what I mean? Like I said, it was just trouble on. Okay. I'll be honest with you. 11 years old was my probably first like serious DYS case, like
that's young,
juvenile case. You know what I mean? I'll be real with you. I have a story that 3 years old. 4 in the morning, they're knocking on the door. Like, my father's like, what's going on? I'm like, yo, is this your kid? I was an escape artist when I was a kid.
Wow.
I would watch the cat go under the gate, take off throughout the back door, under the porch and all that, and I'd be out.
So what's an 11-year-old to get arrested for?
So when I was 11, all my friends, 16, 17. That was always my MO. Like, while I'm 11 years old, I was already stealing bikes. I lived right next to MIT. If you go in my driveway, you would have seen everything property of MIT, from basketballs down to fencing. We took everything from there. I was hanging with the older kids, so there was no more like, I grew up across the street from a park. It was called Trash Park. Every kid hung there. So I started growing up with seeing all the other kids go from riding in the park to taking off on their bikes to going stealing bikes, and then to hang out with that criteria people, you got to make money, so we out making money, you know what I mean? And then I grew up in the era of the 90s, where crack cocaine, all the older cats are now getting into it, and we're getting into selling it, so now we're trading stolen bikes for product to do this and that. It was a hustle. That's what made me do it. My father would have bought me a brand new bike. He would have did 2 roofs and bought me a brand new bike, and then taught me how to fix the bike. You don't get a brand new bike if it breaks. You get a tube, and then you get a tire, and this and that. I had all that. It wasn't that. It was the excitement, the joy, like the adrenaline of like, oh shit, I went and took this and got away with it. I did this and that. So even back then, we didn't have cell phones and stuff. We had nothing to do but get in trouble. And how did you get in trouble? You got out the neighborhood.
And why do you think you were attracted to that?
Like I said, I was a car junkie since I was a baby. You know what I mean? I wanted to be in cars. So even so, like, my first troubles were cars and scooters. Like, anybody my age could tell you that in 6th grade, 7th grade, I'm pulling up on a scooter.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, where the hell did he get this? By high school, by the time I went to high school, for the 2 months I was there, I had my own car. Didn't even have a license, you know what I mean? So I was intrigued by it. So I started getting in trouble with it, you know, joyriding, stolen car, get arrested at 11 with someone else.
Wow.
Of course, I'm the 11-year-old. They take me home. It's really not getting arrested.
You don't have to go to court or anything?
No, I didn't even have to go to court. You know, they call my father. Back then, even so, the cops would call your father. They know your parents. But then it became one thing after the other. And now I got the chins put on me, telling my parents you can't control them. And I'm from a foreign family. Back then, there wasn't no, sit down, son, let me talk to you. It was like, knuckle up. I'm going to beat the shit out of you till you learn. They're telling my parents, you know, they can't control me. I'm going into school. I'm getting into fights with everybody. Right after one time, I get caught up again. My father gave me a nice little, we call it a blasha, a smack.
Yep.
I go to school with a fingerprint on my face. Then they call him, like, Mark's been into another fight. He was like, nah, this is what it was. He's out of control. He tried to tell me what he was going to do in my house at 12 years old. I didn't have that. Of course, they put the chins on you now. DSS comes into your house. They look at the situation. They even talked to my father. They basically told him, how do you deal with this kid? I've been diagnosed with ADD, everything. If I didn't get my way, I'd throw a chair through a wall. Right. They would walk around my house and be like, damn, this kid's out of control. You know what I mean? I was hyper. And at the same time, I'm hanging with other cats that ain't showing me no forms of respect. So now I'm showing I don't have to respect nobody else either. You know what I mean?
Little smacks or whatever you want to call it. Was that often, or was it just when you were really
No, that's when my father would lose his shit. Because
really
like when I tell you, like,
cross the line.
to this day, that I could, if he was here, he could tell you stories that he tells my daughter, and I'm like, damn, who are you talking about? And it was me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Out of control.
In school, I was in every special ed class. It wasn't the schoolwork. I wasn't intrigued. You know what I mean? As a young age, I went to a Catholic school. Didn't want to be there. Didn't want to wear a tie. Didn't want to do anything. I'm in not even 6th, 7th grade, 5th grade. I'm thinking about burning the school down. I'll never have to come to school again.
Wow.
Because I just didn't want to be in school. You know what I mean? So long story short, here we go. I get kicked out of Catholic school, Blessed Sacrament. Now I'm going to more school. Everybody that's been to school with me knows I've been kicked out of every school.
Wow.
If it wasn't one thing, it was another. Got to the point where they put a chins on me. They tried to tell my father they couldn't control me. They throw me in foster care. Okay. Now I get into foster care. I'm in foster care at Charlestown. You put me in another city that's on fire with someone that's just, I'm their paycheck. They didn't care about me. They just wanted to get the check to be fed. Wow. Now I'm with other foster kids. I'm learning other things, quick things. Oh, I can get out of Cambridge. I can be over here, this, and that. System kicks me back to my parents. Here we go again. Assault and battery, assault and battery by means on some guy walking by that a friend of mine picked up a stick, threw it across the street. The guy was, you know, what the hell are you doing? He whips it back at us. We go chase him down the street. I hit him in the back with the stick. There goes the assault and battery. Like, I could have brought my sheet, man. By the time I was 16 years old, I probably got arrested like 12 times.
So when is it that you eventually see that first cell in DYS where it's like, okay, mama and dad's not here, the door's closed, it's just me. Nobody's here to save me.
That came at like 12, 13 years old, you know what I mean? Get involved in a stolen car case. You know, a bunch of friends, steal a car. Actually, one of my boys, he's gonna have, I have a son who's 30 years old. At the same time, he was having his daughter. No, it was like, he was 2 years old and he was having a daughter. I need a car. We go steal a car. The car gets stolen, prints all over it. They take the car. He goes to the hospital. Takes the car later on that night. Goes and robs his DYS tracker's house with 2 other people. They break into this guy's house for some reason. He knew everything about him. They print the car. They come and grab us the next day. I know it was all of you guys. Of course, I'm the younger one. I was the one like, I was there. Actually, I stole the car, but I wasn't there. You know what I mean? I get sent to a mentor, and it wasn't secure yet. It was the first DYS, and I'm like, I'm in Somerville. I'm at home. It was right on the hill. Get out of there.
How long was that stay?
For 2 months, they decide, don't send me back to foster care because my parents, it's not the home problem, it's my problem. They go and order a psychiatric evaluation because I told you I had an ADD and so forth. At that time, it was being looked at. They throw me in Boston Medical Hospital for 30 days. So now here goes a cycle of being used to getting locked up in facilities and realizing what's going on. I make it out to 30 days, you know what I mean? I come home on 1 weekend vacation. That's when I realized they started feeding me pills. And I'm like, wow, I feel different. I get home and I'm usually like up going and moving and all that. My mother's like, this isn't my son. What did y'all do? Oh, we gave him some Ritalin or whatever it was, Prozacs and this and that. She was like, nah, take that shit off. Wow. Ends up getting me out of there. So I'm off all that. I'm like, nah.
So they didn't need permission from your parents to do
that? They
that?
did, but when my mother seen what they told her and what the effects my mother seen was like, dude, you're zombieing my kid. Like 2 weeks ago I seen him, he was good. Now I come out a week later and this dude's a zombie at home like for 4 hours.
And they didn't sell it to her like that.
So she was like, no, my mother's in the church. I'll light a candle. You don't need a pill. You know what I mean? So I was raised like, you don't take none of that shit. So long story short, I get out of there. It doesn't stop. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm out hanging out more with people not from my city. So by the time I'm 15, 16 years old, I'm already stealing cars, leaving Cambridge. I'm over in Mission Hill in Boston with another cat I know. I come back over. I'm driving down by, was it Darnley Field? Yeah. And there's a little intersection where you're supposed to stop. And if you don't, another car can hit you. Who doesn't stop? I don't stop. I get hit, chase. Some cat starts chasing me, this and that. I hit out. What I didn't realize is I left my bag in the car. The next day they come to my house, snatch me up, DYS. I had a good probation officer. I had Steve Alsop, and this dude kept trying to save me. Like, dude, what do you keep doing? You got good parents, this and that. You got skills. So he tried to help me out by keeping me out and then trying to get me into other programs. Like, listen, we're gonna try to put you in a mechanic program when you get up to high school. You just gotta make it now. The school system backtracked, seen what teacher I got along with. This dude is now in special ed classes in the PVD school, which is North Cambridge. Like, we'll get him away from Morse and all that, away from Kennedy School already, and away from all these schools he got kicked out of. And they placed me with this cat, Mr. Goodwin. He got me right through. You know what I mean? Like, he understood me. It took him like 2 years to like break through where he was the cat that I respected enough to say I can finish school. Like, to the point where they take us on school trips. And we're all at this school trip in the Cape. And who decides to be like, nah, I don't want to be here? They're like, well, you're not going though. If you don't like it, get home. Before you know it, the trip's over. I'm missing. There's a car missing. I'm in Boston.
Wow.
They're in the Cape. You know what I mean? So I come back, get in trouble for that. This dude ends up showing me love. So, you know, he gets me through 8th grade. That's all I went. You know what I mean? I got up to the high school and it was a wrap.
What was it about him that you kind of at least connected with a little bit? Was it, did he see something in you? Did you appreciate that?
he would, a lot of the teachers would come at me like, if this doesn't happen, you're going to get this. I was the cat that was always in front of the principal's office. Always getting kicked out of school. When I got to public school, they all knew me. Everybody was going to CCD and seeing me throw a desk at a nun. Like, listen, I'm not going to be here, not clowning me, not yelling at me in front of these people that I know from out of here. So he actually knew me and seeing me like in a lower grade and try to work with me. He had us all. Like, when I tell you we had a class that, like I said, we were all in prison after that. He brought us to Scared Straight in Bill Ricker. And we're walking through Scared Straight. And me and another one of my mans, it's my age, we're going through Bill Ricker and we're walking through Scared Straight, and all of a sudden all you hear is Marky. And you hear my other boy's name, and he turned to us and was like, wow, this is sad, but you're gonna be here. And I was like, nah, bullshit, I ain't coming here. They just know me here.
Right.
But it was because of the criteria cats I was already hanging with. You know what I mean? All my guys were already going to Bill Ricker.
How did you feel about that Scared Straight thing at the time? Did you feel like it was helpful towards you? Why
well,
not?
When you go through it at first, you see it, you know what I'm saying? You think it's a little helpful towards you, but then you see through the bullshit. All of a sudden, I'm seeing people I know in there, you know what I mean? And then as you get older, you're seeing through the bullshit. Like, I've done Scared Straight where I had to sit there and tell kids, stop. This dude is not a murderer and gonna kill you and rip your head off. He's trying to scare you. The reality is there's gonna be a ripple effect and it's gonna affect your life from here on out. I was telling them the real when I did Scared Straight. When I was doing Scared Straight, we had dudes yelling at us like, I'm gonna drag you in this cell and this and that. And you're like, no, you're not. My boy is right there from the street. It's next to you. So I didn't really care for that.
Like you said, you see it for what it is, and then it feels ingenuine. You know what I mean?
And by that time, I was already put into a few DYSs. Like I said, I went to Mentor. After Mentor, I went to Hillside. It was in Somerville. And they take you to a Somerville pizza shop. I leave. They end up getting in touch with my father. Of course, I leave. Where am I going? I go home and shit. My father talks me into like, yo, you got to do something. They sent me to forestry camp in the Cape. So I go out to forestry camp for 30 days. That was my first time like being locked up but shipped away. When I get there, here goes cats that I already know from running around from being a mentor with in Hillside. So I go to forestry camp. I come back from that. Hillside.
How do you feel about that structured environment in a forestry camp type of deal? I've never been, so.
Felt like I was in a teen center.
Okay.
More like, you know what I mean? And it was like certain things, I was already at that mind frame. Like, I didn't care if you were older, you're not going to talk to me and disrespect me. So the way they try to degrade you in some ways, like, here goes a bucket of shit. If you act up, carry the bucket of shit. Like, carry your own shit. You know what I mean? Okay. I'll go back. So that was one of my problems the first time I did it. He ain't trying to do nothing. He's out of here. You know, they make an example. So I go back, I go to Hillside. Eventually my case comes out, I plead out, this and that. They keep pleading me out, but now it's getting pled out to a year suspended. Trying to get me back into school, and then it came to the point where they were like, yo, he has to be committed till he's 21. Wow. So I get out of Hillside. I'm meeting kids that are car thieves too. Now I'm going to Boston. I'm doing things in Boston back and forth. Get a case after that. I have my own car, get pulled over, stolen plates. Car's legit, but I don't have a license. I'm not old enough. I got stolen everything on the car.
So I'm surprised you didn't go on a chase. It seems like that seems,
No, but
seems to have been your thing.
those were happening. But those were the things that like everybody else was seeing, but I wasn't getting caught up for because it wasn't a night that we didn't go out. You know what I mean? It started from, I'll be real with you, me and my best friend who passed away recently, it started like just neighborhood cats. I would go to the aquarium and we would jump the fence and steal everybody's goddamn wish in the middle of the night. The next day to go to 1001 arcades and skip school and be there all day instead. You know what I mean? And it just progressed. Now it was into cars. Now I had movement. It wasn't like a bike only gets you so far.
Right.
A train only gets you so far. You know what I mean? A car, I was gone. So now I'm hanging with other cats that are doing their thing in Boston and all that. I get this case with the car and all that. I get out on bail. That weekend, I pick up another stolen car case. Damn. My second strike in high school. In 2 months, 2 cases, they kicked me out. Okay. A friend of mine, we in mechanics class. Let's get out of here. I take a screwdriver, go behind high school, take a car. Some dude comes out. We whip the screwdriver at him. We get away. We get chased through the high school and all that. While the guy's chasing us, he went to jump a fence, slips, busts his head open. He comes in the high school. He's leaking. I already ran through the high school, and back then, like people were wearing all these colored green jackets and jeans and stuff. I get snatched up by Helen Ford, security. She's like, "What are you doing? What are you into?" Because I was always already into something. She goes and takes me home because she already seen me my first 2 weeks there. She goes and takes me home. This is on a Friday. Monday comes. I go to school like nothing happened. All of a sudden, they come to my class, the bad class. They pick me out.
Now you're talking about security or police? Both?
Security. No, just security. Come, we got to talk to you. I'm like, oh, what's going on? First, they take me to class. I go into class. I'm sitting in the class with nobody I know at all. And all of a sudden, someone comes to the window, points me right out. Then they take me to my locker. They go in my locker. At that time, I had weed. They took the weed. They were like, all right, that's another case, this, and that. Boom, I'm out of here. I ended up getting locked up for the possession of marijuana, assault and battery by means. Wow. Because when the guy went to jump over the fence, we shook the fence. Here goes the guy falling, so that was by means. Wow. It's like, even if I tell you, I'll hit you in the face with this pipe, that's assault by means. Okay. I threatened you know what I mean? So I'm like, I never really touched him. They were like, nah, the guy fell off the fence. Look at the back of his head. So now my probation officer's like, you're out of here, Rosendale. You know what I mean? Have you ever been to Rosendale?
I've been to Rosendale.
Oh shit, you're passing a cemetery.
Yeah.
And then that road to get to Secure is like the longest road ever, you know what I mean? So now I'm even further into a place where nobody knows my name, where I know nobody. Right. But now I'm meeting people.
At any point, do you run into anybody else from Cambridge? Because I feel like in DYS, like it wasn't too often.
No,
one or
so
two, from
the
at least
cats
my
that I
experience.
was running into are the same cats that I ran into upstate.
Same
you know what
faces.
I mean? So the same cats that were in my classes that they were saying, oh, these kids are all speds and these kids are all, disturbed, and you're putting us in this classes, all you were doing was creating what you were creating back then. You gave us, like, show and tell to us was like, who got the illest knife and shit like that. We only stayed in one class all day. So now you're already putting me in an environment where it's like a secure environment. I can't go to the hallways like everybody else, change classes. I can only go to lunch and come right back to this class. So now I'm having the same cats that are in these classes with me that have the same problems as me, and now we're linking up and we're still having problems. And then it goes further on to like Cambridge jail. They came to me and my probation officer was like, yo, I'm trying to help you again. You don't want to be here. Your parents definitely don't want you here. I don't know why they're co-signing for you. I think I was just turning like 16. I had a kid on the way. Like I said, I was living the fast life. All my boys were older. You got to put it in. They never told me to take it out. So now I'm looking to be a father here. Long story short, they get me out. They send me to forestry camp again. I killed forestry camp this time. Like, I just want to get to the street. You know what I mean? I just wanted to be home. So I wanted to try to get to the street before he was born. So even when I went to forestry camp, I get there, it gets so much easier. There's 2 dudes from my class. You know how it goes when you go somewhere. You know somebody, they're hipping you already to what's going on. From DYS up to state, that's how it works, who you meet, this and that. Exactly. My experiences, I've been all the way up, and DYS was at one point like some of the more raw shit than I seen upstate. Because you had kids that didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? There was no consequences.
That's that age too, man. Testosterone's running rampant among these
teenagers. And then everybody's telling you, you have to have this image. You can't let nobody do this. And now you're like, I have to do this. You know what I mean? And I always got along with everybody, you know? Like, I was from the coast. I never really said I'm from the coast. I would be in East Cambridge. I would be in North Cambridge. I would bounce around. And like I said, most of my guys were all older. So even the young cats around my way, I was cool with everybody. I probably was doing stupid shit to the younger cats. Like, now I get Facebook posts like, haha, remember we used to take all our bikes and shit? And I'm like, damn, I feel like an asshole now. But because I was with a different criteria of cats, you know what I mean? Smoking weed at 11, 12 years old, drinking in parks, because that's what older cats used to do back then. Going in, letting my parents tuck me in, like, and out the window the next minute, you know? So I was always getting into something. And I had great people around me. Like, I had cousins and my sister and parents and aunts always like, stop, don't do this and that. And I always chose like everybody else over my family at that time. You know what I mean? Like, nah, you guys don't know, because I was just too used to, I guess, them being there for me always.
You're in Rosendale, you do your 90 days. Is that it for the DYS run?
So I did like 80 something days. I was going to court, you know, it was coming up. And when I went to court, they were like, if you complete the program in the Cape now, you're all set. You know what I mean? You'll go home. But I was already DYS state committed till I was 18. I get out, I see my son born, everything, you know what I mean? I see my son. This is the time that I'm already kicked out of high school. You know, my dad had a business at that time, carpentry. I started working for him. Now I'm making good money, you know what I mean? Here I go getting intrigued back to the cars again. I buy another car, and I'm hooking it up in my driveway. I still can't drive, but that's all I cared about, like my cars and stuff like that. Here I go out again now, doing the car thing at night to hook my car up. Get into a high-speed chase, we get away one night, everything's cool, fine, dandy. We go out and do some things. We go to the mall the next day in the same car, the Watertown Mall. I end up seeing an older cat that I know that's a car thief in the mall. He's like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, I'm over here. And he was like, and I told him, he was like, what happened? What did you do yet last night? And I told him we got into some shit, and he was like, you're still in that car? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm young. I'm like, yeah, so what? He was like, nah, why don't you come out with me tonight? Now, I got me, a girl that was from around my neighborhood that used to hang with all the fellas, and another one of my friends. We go out with this cat. We jump in a brand new Jeep Cherokee. We head into Boston. It's the night of the Boston Regatta. There's so much money in Boston, and at this time, everything was about car radios back then. Yeah. So we were breaking in, taking Benzie boxes, and before the faces used to come off, we used to take this big radio, you know what I mean? This cat's older. This dude is a professional car thief. Like, he has already shit lined up left and right. Here we go hitting garages downtown Boston. We go in one way, we go to the 3rd floor, leave a car there. We start on the 1st floor, and we were making our way up to the 3rd floor to load the whole Cherokee up. Everybody breaks up. We meet back at the car. We start putting stuff in. One of my boys is like, yo, there's a car a Monte Carlo downstairs with a crazy system. I'm bringing that car up here so we can take all that shit out of it up here. We go downstairs. We take that car, steal it, bring it upstairs. We're taking everything out. The kid's pulling the radio out, and he grabs the radio and he cuts his finger, and he rips the radio and he whips the shit off the ground. And he's like, what the fuck, this and that. We get in the car, we start going down to the next floor to hit the bottom floor down. Security came up and seen a radio near now you got 4 security dudes running around. I'm going down the stairs, one grabs me. He's like, you over here stealing? Let me see your hands, this and that. I'm like, no. Meanwhile, I just broke into a car. I got this big leather jacket on that I took out of this car. Let me see inside you, this and that. So they got me. And that was the thing. I was always taught by the older cats, no need to fight the police. Anybody that grabs you, it is what it is, you know what I mean? Right. Plus, I knew I was already younger, so I didn't give this dude no take. This dude, the cats that had the car upstairs, all you hear on the mic is like, they're not stopping. They come through, they almost run this dude over, they take out the fence and all that. This dude goes and grabs me up. I get arrested that night. That's when my probation officer sends me back. He's like, the only place we got is Hillside for you right now. You're gonna be here till So this, and this, and that. Once I get over the hillside, I was there probably like 20 days. I went back to court. My lawyer at the time, I don't know what she did. She had like a speedy trial real quick to say, you grabbed this gentleman that was downstairs. He had nothing on him. And even when my father came to the police station to get me and bail me out that night, because I had to get bailed out, and then they let me go to court the next morning. He was like, whose fucking stupid jacket is that? And the guy's like, it's to hide all the radios. Meanwhile, I'm like, damn, if the guy walks in here with that car from this leather jacket, he's gonna know. I go back to court, Steve gives me another chance. He's like, yo, this is the last chance you get, you know what I mean? So I was like, cool. He was like, I know you've been working with your father. I know you've been doing this. I don't know what happened. I said, yo, wrong situation. He was like, it can't be that wrong when there's cars involved and you're in a building. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I was just there. You know, I try to walk away from this shit.
So you got just for clarification, you got the probation, and now you have, what, one open case, two open cases?
I had like 3 open cases.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I didn't know what was going on. I'm getting closer to being an adult. All the rules are changing. Truth in sentencing's coming in. They're lowering the age to 17 instead of 18, the seriousness of your crime.
Wow.
In Massachusetts and all that. So right now I'm like, damn, I'm gonna be going to DYS till I'm 18 years old. They didn't throw out the case. Steve gave me a shot to say, how about this? I'm gonna commit you to your 21.
Okay.
I'm not gonna commit you though. I'm gonna give you one more chance. If you fuck up again, you're done.
So pretty much extended your commitment instead of giving you that time.
While I'm 16, instead of giving me the time, because I just had a kid. He knew I was working.
Yeah.
I was getting to the point where I was coming to Thorndike Street every week with a stub all proud, like, yo, leave me alone, you know what I mean? I had a cousin who was in the Marines, and he was like, yo, at the right age, you could join the Marines. And I'm like, yo, maybe I'll do that, you know what I mean? So I even kind of talked to him about it, Steve, and that was a good thing about Steve. He was like, my teacher, Mr. Goodwin. He would sit me down and want to figure me out instead of being like, nah, this is you, and that's how I'm judging you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was like, well, you're into the cars, you can do the mechanics, and we already tried that at the high school, but look, that didn't work.
Right.
And I was like, well, maybe this is my out, this, and that. I'm 16 now, just about to turn 17. I just turned 17, my fault. 6 months, no problems, working, staying away from shit, still driving on the side, but now I'm not doing all this stupid shit to bring the heat to me, you know what I mean? I forget what year it was, Halloween, I'm 17. We out flying around on scooters and shit, a couple of cats from my neighborhood. One of my boys, like, we all smoking weed back then, blunts and all that, comes to us and was like, who got weed? We was like, we don't know, but let's go to Harvard Square, somebody got weed. We go up to Harvard Square, these cats run into somebody up there they know, no weed, this and that. They ended up taking fucking acid from somebody to be a dickhead, like, give me this shit.
Harvard Square back then was a little different than it is now.
Harvard Square, like, the pit was all punk rockers and skateboarders, and like, if you wanted to trip out and do some crazy shit or smoke weed, it was like the Hippieville, you know what I mean? Hippieville. So he takes the shit from some kid, like, man, we go back to the park, back in the park drinking with older cats and all that. Let me try one. We all try a tab. Half hour later, like that, I'm like, that shit did nothing to me. I try another one. The rest of the night was like pieces, you know what I mean? In the park, chilling, getting fucked up, drinking back then these 40-ounce beers, these horrible liquor, you know what I mean? We're drinking, and we're there with a bunch of older cats, and I'm kind of tripped out watching shit follow me and all that. And one of the older cats comes up to me and was like, let me get a sip of your beer. I was like, man, you ain't putting your dick beaters on my beer. I don't know you like that. And I put the beer down and we're rolling weed up. I turned around, the dude got the beer in his hand. And I'm like, I'm a little cat now. I was smaller. So I always had something to prove, you know what I mean? So I grabbed the beer. I said, yo, what are you doing? He said, what are you going to do? I was like, nothing. I turned around and I turned around and I whipped it off his face. And I'm thinking it's going to be like a movie and explode in his face. It was like,
punk.
And this dude was a mover. Like, this dude used to work for a moving company. He snatched me up. And I'm like, here we go. Before you know it, I'm falling on top of him. A friend of mine takes out his legs. We piece this dude up. He's older. His boy gets us off him. We run away like, fuck you, this and that. At that time, I was already dibbling, dabbling, selling crack here and there to his boy. I get a page, 911, meet me. 911, and back in the day, we used to like 125 or whatever. That meant meet me at my house.
Right.
So I'm on my way there. I turn around, hits his boy, lined me up, you know what I mean? Snuffs me, I take an L right there, my glasses are hanging off my face. His boy grabs him off of me now and was like, yo, leave him alone now. Me, now I'm like, oh, you disrespected me? I got my glasses hanging off, this and that. I ran back to the park where dudes were, and I got this big fat eye. I'm like, yo, look what this dude just did to my eye. And my boy's like, let's go get him. He's like, the benches we were at, he falls over, he's so drunk. One of my boys comes with me. I run back to my house, I go in my yard, I come out with a crowbar. put the shit in my jeans. I start running up the street. I see the cat. I was like, yo, my man, tonight's the wrong night. You shouldn't have did that. He was like, what, are you gonna stab me? Because he seen me pull the crowbar. Right when he went down, I hit him over the head. Gave this dude like 72 stitches. His boy ended up telling on me that I knew. You know what I mean? Wow. This was my first adult case now. Now I get arrested. I'm in a DYS cell. The next day I go to court and Steve is like, and I'm like, what do you mean? I'm going, where am I going now? And he was like, it ain't gonna be DYS. Wow. And I'm like, I don't understand. He was like, the seriousness of your case, attempt to commit murder, assault and battery with a deadly weapon, this and that. He was like, they're gonna take over your case and bring you up to adult. And I'm like, what the hell? So now I'm waiting to go from juvenile court. They send me upstairs to Cambridge court. They stick me in Cambridge now, a real jail, the first time. I'm up Cambridge now. All of a sudden, when I get up there, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be prison. This is gonna be jail. Like it's adult now. This is the stuff I hear about. All my boys I'm already in Bill Ricker and stuff like that because they were all older. I get up there, I start knowing half the cats that are there. Like, oh, yo, you're good, this and that. So that whole week I was there, like, it didn't even register like that this was prison because I was just like, wow, dude, I'm going to jail now. You know what I mean? I go to court. This dude ends up coming to court with a bandage over his head. His boy talking about, he's the one who hit him. So when the cops got there, after I hit this dude, I didn't even notice I had pulled his sweater over and I'm hitting the dude. When the cops came, I let him go. And they're like, what's your name? And I gave him a different name. And then we had a cop that was already on me. And I didn't even know it at that time. I think his name was like Detective Phillips. And he was like, that's not his name. This is his name. So that added to my shit. I get locked up for that. Now I have an indictment coming against me as an adult because for the last 5 months, I had this detective from Cambridge, a motor vehicle task force, following me. This dude was building up a case to the point where he would time the cars I got, where I dropped cars off, this and that. No, I lost him. He went over the BU bridge. He's back in Boston. Yeah. He would wait around my neighborhood all night to see what I would bring back and so forth. So he was already building a case for my adult case. I had 6 months of like no trouble. When I meant no trouble, like I didn't get locked up.
You didn't get caught.
But I was doing other things. And I was like, I'm out of my neighborhood now. They don't know what I'm doing in Boston. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I'm showing up to Thorndike Street, pulling up in a car, parking the car, taking my dent puller, putting it in the trash barrel, going to see probation officer. Damn. I remember one time I came out, the car that I stole to get there is on the corner where they're doing the detail. Damn. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna walk home. I start walking home. I get by Kendall House of Pizza. I told you my father was built mad pizza shop. I'm like, let me go see these people. I'll get some free pizza. Across the street, and there's a cat that I already had a problem with from Cambridge on some other shit over his brother or his cousin that he works in the mall, and his car is parked on this side street. So instead of going to get pizza, here I go, rip his alarm during the middle of the day. I rip his siren out. I put his car in neutral. This is how bad I was. Pushing his car backwards to start it because it had a kill switch. When I start the car, I turn around, there's a parking meter person just staring at me. And I wave, I leave. But I was arrogant at that time too, especially when I didn't get along with somebody. That would be my jab back, you know what I mean? Like I ended up taking all the shit off this car and put it on the shit that I had and let everybody know, like, here goes this guy talking to my lawyer now about if it isn't going to be a DYS state committed, we're going to go after him for an adult case because now he's already out here with another adult case. So now I got a newborn, two adult case open, another one coming and waiting for a DYS state committed hearing till I'm 21. Because now he's like, if you don't beat this assault as an adult, I'm committing you. I can't do no more for you. They ended up transferring me over to like Nancy Davenport. And it was a wrap because I already knew she wanted me for years. And Steve was like, let me work with him. And my father kept telling me like, Steve liked my father where he's like, Frank, I'm trying to work with you. And my father's whole thing was like, I need you to do something. And my father was advocating to lock me up because he was scared that I'm gonna do worse. You know what I mean? Serious. I'm gonna get into worse because he already knew he'd pick me up, I was out the door the next day. My father's old school, they're all about family. He was more worried about me leaving the house and ended up on the street, which he at least knew my kids come home, you know what I mean? No matter what.
How long were you in Cambridge jail that first time?
Cambridge jail, I was there for a week. This guy comes to court like a mummy on all that.
Were you surprised that these people were showing up to court? That's
and these were older cats that like we played ball with and stuff like that. And these are guys that were all into their own thing, doing drugs and all that. When they showed up at court, even the judge looked like, so when it came down to it, the judge was like, well, I don't see him as a dangerous person. All his stuff as a juvenile that we really can't bring up is car shit. And I had that other assault and battery. Right. So they're like, the assault and battery was by means. He shook a fence. They kind of like figured it out. So now I got this case. I get bailed out, $1,000. My father bails me out just on time. You know, I had my son's baby christening and all that. So I get out. And this time I was really like trying to chill. You know what I mean? And then summertime came and it was a wrap for me again. You know what I mean? I get the good weather. I was over in Boston. No one knew my name. Yeah. Every cop knew who I was because I was this little kid with glasses that couldn't see over the dashboard, and I was in the car or doing something, you know what I mean? Now I'm bringing drugs from over there to Cambridge and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So, but even that wasn't my whole scene of the drugs. Like, everybody was trying it at that time. I was just like, yeah, that's not, like, that doesn't give me adrenaline. Come January of the following year, I ended up catching my adult case. I don't speak on it much because, you know, there is 3 individuals that were there, 3 friends, and out of respect for the family to this day, 30 years later, I don't bring up certain things because I wasn't involved in a crime where it was a crime. You know, accidents happen in life. 3 people in the room, we knew what happened. I was the only one that ever went to court. What screwed me going to court for it was I already had that mentality of an adult, of when you grab me, you don't say anything. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying anything, and the whole time other things are being said. And, you know, when the news hears something, they go run with one story everybody believes and all that. And then later on in life, it starts coming out when you start going through the case and all that. And you're like, damn, this dude ain't even supposed to be in jail type shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I seen that happening a lot. And it was also happening because of what was happening with the system at that time. Mm-hmm. When I went into the system, I remember I told you, it started honing 17-year-olds. I was seeing 18-year-olds like Justin you had on the show before. Yeah. I watched his whole case as a younger kid, like, wow, this dude got into this at 18. But now I'm watching 17 years old.
And you were 17 at the time.
And I was 17 at the time. So now they're getting you for the seriousness of your crime, you know what I mean? I had a manslaughter case. I was unfortunate that the person who had my case didn't want to even look into didn't even want to care if I was guilty, if I was innocent, what happened that night. It was all about, this is my first public in the news, high profile, gonna slam dunk this case because I need this to become a DA. I had this lady that, she was no joke. Like, she came in there, you could tell there was never a crack of a smile to the judge, to anyone. She was straight business, and she was all about proving herself in the courts to become that DA. Yeah. And here comes her first serious case. She was handling stupid stuff before, and now they throw this
licking
case
her chops, probably waiting for this.
Well, they throw a case at her that she's like, oh, this is either a good plead or I'm gonna just figure this out. And she wasn't letting up. My parents went with a paid lawyer. You know, I'll say this piece of shit's name to the day I die, Angel Guadalupe. It was a friend of the family. That he went to church with my aunt wasn't who he was saying or how he wanted to be. So what ends up happening is I get this vicious DA. She gets all these kids, and I'll be real with you, I could show you a stack of names that I've figured out who they were throughout the years after, coming to my grand jury, that never grew up with me. I never even knew, maybe ran into you. You heard stories about me. You knew how I was. And like I said, I wasn't a tough guy or this and that, but I also wasn't a sucker. I also got into mad shit. I also was this big, so you know what I mean? There was always a disadvantage. I had cats coming to the grand jury just saying like, oh, I know he used to do this, and I know he used to carry guns and this and that, and my whole repertoire was, if you knew me, was nothing about guns, nothing about anything. And they're like, oh, and I know he was violent, and I remember him in school. And then I had people bringing up, I told you my first case in high school was, I don't know if you when you was in Ringe, they had Pete's, the corner store.
No, but I've heard of Pete's.
Pete's used to sell $1 sandwich with a teeny weenie and blunts. So what are we doing? We're going over there smoking, eating, and we're coming back. We're walking back, and we're over there capping. We're over there telling jokes on the way back, and that starts getting into mother jokes. Cat that was in our class with us, I hit him with a mother's joke, and he gets all mad and tries to shove me. I turn around, I had a very fine bottle in my hand. And I smacked him with the very fine bottle, cut his eye. By the time I get back to the school, he's already at the school with his mother. She's pressing charges and all that, so that was my other case that Ringe was like, you're out of here. All of a sudden, I'm reading these things, and I'm like, damn, what the hell's going on here? You know what I mean? I know I'm off the hook. I know, you know, but shit, you know what I mean? So I could, you know, at one time in my life, I was sitting there like, oh, I can't wait to get home and put airplanes in the air and expose all these dudes for who, because now I'm in prison years later, and these dudes are on the street like they're killers and mafia dudes and shit like that, and all types of shit. And you're like, really? Like if I just put this one page out there, but you know, that comes in your life when you're even like, is it worth my time? You know what I mean?
So they do indict you, though, I take it.
So now they go from a manslaughter case to a second degree. And it took this lady forever to convince this jury to charge me with second degree. Her whole thing was, if I get a second degree, he'll plead down to manslaughter. But now what she did is take a case like an accidental case, just like if me and you was on a motorcycle and you fell off the back, or in a car accident, you took a manslaughter case and turned it into a second degree case. Juries look at that totally different. Your time becomes totally different. You're talking about 18 to 20 max to 15 to letters.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, long story short, I catch my major case. I get sent up Cambridge right away. Because I'm 17 in jail. They already know I've been there before because I was there months before. Now because of my age and my case and the criterias of it, they said, you know what? He has to go to Bridgewater State Hospital.
Wow.
So now my first 2 days I'm in Cambridge. I get there. I already know the kind of the routine of like, all right, I get my new shit. I got to get a bunk, and then I got to figure this shit out like last time, but it's going to be more than a week now. You know, the night of my case, I was intoxicated. I was smoking. That held, you know, big time in my case. I was even with certain people that night that I seen gave a statement that I was like, I was with them that night? Like, really? Like, I don't even know this girl. She was with us. Like, she was there at one point. This person was there. And then I'm realizing, like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So, to this day, you know, I don't drink. I don't get down like that because I know it used to turn me either into a 6'1" person or not.
Do you think the drinking played a role with the other stuff?
One of my first car accidents when I was intoxicated coming from someone's house. I get into that car accident, I told you.
Yeah.
That was,
So drinking was
I get away. So I'm like, damn, maybe no. And then other times I drank, certain shit happened. I'm like, shit. But I'm thinking, even with the case when I hit the guy with the crowbar, it wasn't the drinking, it was the acid.
Right.
No,
Okay.
the drinking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
looking back, you see that.
Looking
now.
back, and then in the future when I tried it, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like 7'1". This ain't gonna work for me. I'm this big, and I think I can take on the world. You know what I mean? So that night, a lot went on. End up happening. I get to prison. I get to jail. They ship me from Cambridge to Bridgewater State Hospital.
How many days?
Just a 30-day evaluation. So I get my lawyer. I meet my lawyer. He comes to see me when I get arrested. Basically tells me what's gonna go on in court, this and that. I get into court, you know, cameras there, everything. I'm watching my family there. I'm watching the victim's family, which is a friend of mine. I'm watching everybody there, but the other person that was in my case. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, this dude was like one of my boys, like, and you're not even like showing up for me or nothing. I haven't seen you since the cops took you one way and I went way, which he went home. Nothing. You know what I mean? He made his statements and did whatever he had to do. I go to Cambridge, Bridgewater. If you've ever been to Bridgewater, it's a fucking state prison with a bunch of crazy cats. And this is me, my first take of like going to jail, waiting trial, but I'm in prison now with prisoners and convicts and serious motherfuckers and crazy dudes eating they shit. And like I was with some cats that were all over news as like John Salvi, the abortion clinic killer, and dudes like that. You know what I mean? All high profile cases in this unit. So I get there, first thing they try to do is molly you up. Here, take this medicine, this and that. And I was like, nah. And my lawyer's like, you should take whatever they tell you to take. Because if anything, we can try for insanity. And I'm looking at this dude like insanity, like I might have been fucked up where I didn't know 100% what it entailed, what happened that night. But I'm not insane, like I'm not crazy, bro, because you already went through this when I was a kid. Well, that's the perfect thing. We already have, now this guy's trying to build my case for me. We already have the past of you going away and this and that. So I do my 30-day evaluation there. They send me back to Cambridge. Now I'm in Cambridge, and if you've ever been to Cambridge jail, you have the 18 tiers on your left side. It's like 4 tiers. The dorms down the end, and then you have one unit.
Max unit, they would call it when I was there.
Now, at that time, it was manslaughter and above unit. Now I'm there with all types of cats, you know what I mean? I was there with some serious Somerville cats that did some crazy, had a big case. And right away, you know what I mean? I was the young kid on the block, and I was blessed in some ways because from being up there a couple weeks before, even one person remembered, Marky was here last time. And then these cats, and then, you know, they start talking to you and they kind of take you under your wing. And it was cool because I was in a small unit. And I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of secure. We get our own gym time and all that, thinking it's the shit.
TV's not an issue. There's 6 of it, whatever.
6 dudes, the TV's there, we all getting along. It's all seniority shit. You know what I mean? So you learn, like, even structured prison shit quick. You know what I mean?
And didn't they have the bars right there in the hallway, too? It's kind of
yeah,
like
so
open.
this unit was no bigger than what we're standing in.
Yeah.
With 6 cells, and then when people come to the child, that's the only interaction
They walk right
you
by
get.
you, yeah.
Like, yo, 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 and dudes are trying to throw you shit because it's the old school bars, you know what I mean? So I was in that unit for like 6 months. That unit we end up getting in there. They try to take, they come in there and they try to take this cat from Sully from Somerville out, and we all stuck together. Everybody tied their doors up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Flooded out, this and that. They ripped us all out of there. They put us upstairs on the 20th floor, put us in this little, in the back of this little, the building for like a week.
Yeah.
Then they let us out, and then they broke us up and put us on tiers. So from the tier, I was sitting there, and my pops knew a lot of people in life, you know what I mean? He had the guy that ran the kitchen. This dude calls me down and like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit around your whole time? Or, and I was like, no, I want a job, you know what I mean? So I get up in the kitchen, I start working. Now I'm living a dorm life. I'm like, this ain't bad. I get to go play basketball, this and that. But at the same time, I was already used to this structured environment. All they did was take me out of school into a DYS setting that was basketball, certain, you know, the set schedules and all that. And now I'm back up Cambridge. But I ain't gonna lie, I felt alone, you know what I mean? Because there wasn't one person that I didn't say that it was my fault one time. Friends, this and that. You know, I got a bunch of fakesters, and I had a couple real ones that were like, yo, but I started realizing, like, even before that, I was already keeping my way from my neighborhood. I was already stopped hanging with so many people. And I didn't know if that at that time it was because the shit I was on or they was on, but I was also on some, like, they didn't want to stop doing the other stupid shit that I was doing. So when I got up Cambridge, you know, I get into Cambridge, and then that's when all the hustling starts up there. And
from what, the kitchen stuff?
Kitchen stuff, you know, dudes are getting mad. So this dude got mad one time that, you know, someone touched something of his and then tried to like throw dudes' bunks off, and this dude ended up getting beat up. And of course they come in, the 4 dudes that had the problem with them, we out of here. So now we back to the tiers, and that's how I started. I stayed up Cambridge honestly for like probably like 17 months.
17 months.
You know what I mean? Because in the meantime, I had a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I have a lawyer that at first is like, we'll play it all this sanity. And then 6 months, 8 months later, this dude has filed 2 motions. Motion to suppress and a motion to dismiss evidence. And it's like, yo, what about all this other shit? And I have, you know, the legal lawyers up there. I have other people going through similar, like, other murder cases and stuff like that. And I'm watching their lawyers on shit. I'm like, what's going on? He was like, oh, we're going to try to find you a plea bargain. And I'm like, what's a plea bargain? He was like, anything's better than life, right? And I'm like, yeah. He was like, yeah, maybe we get you like 12 to life or something. That I don't know if she's gonna come off the top, but don't worry about it. You're young, you can do it.
Yeah.
And I stopped and was like, I'm young, I can do it. The type of lawyer tells a young kid that you're young, you can do it. You know what I mean? So now I'm figuring it out. Like, wow, this dude's only here because every other month he's at my dad. Like, oh, I need more money. Now my father's already given this dude. And this is in 94, dude, like 93, 94. My father's already given this dude like 50 grand. Damn. And then I talked to my father. My father said, it's what you can do. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to do what I have to do, because if they give me life, I could be out in 15 years, but that life, I could be every 5 years. 18 to 20 doesn't look bad right now if I plead out to manslaughter. And my lawyer's like, I don't think I can get you back down to manslaughter. And this lawyer, I mean, this DA was on it like, I'm not letting go of this, and that. That's when I told the judge, like, dude, I don't feel like this dude's representing me right. You know, Your Honor, he told me I'm young, 15 to life, I can do it.
Wow.
Anything better than that is I can get over. And I'm like, I don't feel like this is what it is, you know what I mean? And at the time, I had a couple of my boys that had a home invasion case. They shot this cat in Cambridge. They had a mass armed robbery, assault and battery. They had this crazy case where they robbed these dudes, they shot them, gang related, the whole 9. And their lawyer, they had a new lawyer, a young lady, my God, you know what I mean? Cheryl McGivery, that was her second case of taking on her own case, and she was killing it. And she was in the courtroom when she heard my case. Yeah. And then she went in the back, and when she went in the back, she was talking to my boy, and she was like, excuse me, don't let them do what they think they can do to you. Wow. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, just hearing your case, you have more to go than what he's trying to do for you. And she was like, but I didn't say nothing. And I was kind of like, oh shit. So now I go into court, I tell the judge, like, you know, Your Honor, I want to fire this dude. They're like, it's not that easy. We got to go through this. Are you under medication? And da-da-da-da-da-da. Finally, this dude's like, what's going on? He's trying to call my dad. My father's like, yo, it's his decision, this and that. Now I got my parents at me like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, I got to do what I got to do. They're like, yo, you're going to, and I don't want to put them through it. You know, it's not like my parents had money. My father was borrowing money from everybody trying to save my life. You know what I mean? And just prove something more than what everybody thought. I get this lawyer, he's out of here. The next day I get a visit from Cheryl McGivery. And she comes in the courthouse, up to the courthouse, and she was like, I just want to talk to you. I'm not your lawyer, but I looked into some of your case, this and that. And I was like, you're not my lawyer yet, but when I go to court, they told me I can have a court-appointed lawyer. They assigned me this guy, Joe something, who thought I was in here he was like, is this the stolen car case? And I'm like,
oh, jeez. Yeah,
come on, man. You know what I mean? This dude had his tie backwards and all that. I'm like, oh, here we go. She came and met with me, and before you know it, she got to do my case pro bono. And this was like her first, even bigger than my boy's case. Like, this is her first case to prove something of herself. But not only that, like, she honestly, like, looked into my case and read my case and found things on my case that was like, you're saying it was A, B, C because this statement was made, but D, E, F, and the letters go on. What about this?
Exactly.
So,
so now you're feeling a little bit more
now
confident
I'm
with this
with
lawyer?
her, like, oh, she's found this, and that. Now we go into court, and by the time I'm in court, 3 months, she's filed like 17 motions. She's on it, like, doom, doom. She's coming to see me every week. Anytime she had somebody, she'd call me down. Look at this, and that. She found discrepancies in the gunpowder. She's like, you know, when firearms are used, gunpowder is sprayed. You know, they put you in a monkey suit. Where's the gunpowder on your body? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's 3 people in this room. There has to be gunpowder on your body. And if there's no gunpowder on your body, we have a case to keep going on with X, Y, Z. And you had another juvenile here that you didn't charge him as a juvenile. And all they was worried about, because even when they arrested me, they just was like, oh shit, you know what you're doing, huh? And then when they were trying to get me to give a statement the whole time, they're like, so you've been through this, you know what you're doing, huh? This is a different monster now. And I'm like, I just need my father to get here or a lawyer. I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah, you already know what's
So the whole time a statement's given by other parties, and that's what they're running with.
Okay. But eventually, do you go to trial? Is that what happens?
So now we go to start trial.
You got a moment when they see you down this